Greetings. Let's begin before they find out where we're located. I was reading a description in the paper today, an article in which mentioned something about Sandra Day O'Connor and referenced the court. The writer and the publisher put in the statement that the Supreme Court, is the least democratic part of our government, without mentioning the other part, that the Supreme Court, is the least partisan. That's by design. It is by design that the justices of the Supreme Court would be protected from partisanship. Obviously, there is a little bit in some, but they're not having to chase votes. They're not having to chase supporters. They're not having to chase donations. They're not having to chase special interests. They don't have to chase any of that. Our democracy is protected because we have individuals whose role it is to judge, to carefully consider the constitutionality of the laws that are passed or the executive orders that are engaged in. President Biden has been shut down and stamped down many times for his usurpation of power, inappropriately saying he can do things or even trying to do them. He's not the only president who's had that, but he is remarkable in how many times he is being shut down by the Supreme Court for exceeding his authority as the executive of the country. So, today's reminder, as we almost have to be underground in valuing the protection of our country, of our democratic system, which is a constitutional republic, which was designed and continues to have many different ways to check and balance power and those who would seek it, as well, of course, as those who would carry it out or execute it. So, as we go forth, as you continue to hear the incomplete statements, they're not incomplete by ignorance, they are incomplete by design. They only will tell you the Supreme Court is the least democratic. They will not tell you the Supreme Court protects our democracy because it is the least partisan, the least subject to the whims of popular opinion. After all, the majority can be wrong. The majority can push for things that are unwise, or certainly can push for things without thinking through impacts in other areas or other ways. We must continue to push for, support, and push against the reduction of everything to partisanship. The virtually constant drumbeat on CNN and MSNBC about our democracy being in danger. Well, our democracy's always been in danger. That's one. Two, our democracy is in danger when the press is absent. CNN is media, they're not the press. They don't question, challenge government. They fight for, push for, and represent for the Democrats. The difference is fundamental. Our democracy is in danger by CNN's existence as it is. Our democracy is in danger by so many Americans listening to CNN and MSNBC, and you can put Fox in there if you're all about that. Put Fox in there, does not matter. These entities are not the press. It's not just traditional papers. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. Go ahead. Show me how Jeff Bezos is about the press's role of keeping government in, not in check, but questioning government, elaborating, forcing them to explain, to elaborate, to state, to declare, to justify. Go ahead. Because when there was a previous president for 4 years, the Washington Post did not engage in journalism, did not engage in real journalism. The Washington Post continued to engage in slanderous activities and leading and smearing. We all know that nothing is perfect, no entity is perfect, but this is beyond that. We do not have a press except for independent people on YouTube and other places. Locals. Go to locals. There are people who are putting things up. Many things are opinion. Many things are taking something and talking more about it and developing the concepts. But that is much more of a classical, what is this about? What's it for? Who's benefiting? How does it benefit? How does this fail over here? Because if you can't start with that question or put that question in there and address it or refute it, then you're failing to do your investigative journalism. You're failing to do your contemplative considering of these things. The Supreme Court, I don't agree with the description that is the least democratic, because that's a misrepresentation of truly what the true meaning of these things is. But even if that is used, must include the statement that it is the least partisan. And if there's any question in anyone's mind about Congress in putting a code of conduct on the Supreme Court, send me in writing how much the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, made playing the stock market in 2022 with the insider information that she had, just to the nearest million, just 2022. And then tell me what rank Nancy Pelosi was in terms of the most, how much she made, because she wasn't even number one. And then come back to me about Congress and ethics. Now, I think Congress should have more ethics. I think these rules should apply to Congress that apply to the rest of the people. I do. I don't think they should be exempt from it. I think that insider information is vital to protect all of that. Congress needs to demonstrate that they will apply standards to themselves, ethical standards to themselves. Don't get caught up in the media spinning this. Be a partisan. Do not be a partisan. You can be a partisan different hour, but for some hour of each day, consider in a nonpartisan way, is this really ethical? Is this really democratic? Is this really in the best interests of the people? Is this really fair? That's a simple way of getting at some of these things. Is this fair? Is it fair? Here's another way to consider this. Do we fund the public defender's offices enough? Or are the people who can't afford lawyers, advocates, the ones who they're not second-class citizens, but in a sense, they're less than because of money? Do we believe that each person should have equal protection under the law. That includes if there's a charge against them. Do we, out of our riches and our wealth, real riches and real wealth, not the false created stuff that Biden and Democrats in Congress have been doing. Check out the inflation rate, check out the national debt, check out these creation of money. But out of our real wealth, we're huge, we're tremendously wealthy. Do we fund public defenders enough so that each person has a real good defense attorney who knows the law and can protect them individually against the overwhelming power of government? That's a thought. Least partisan. Big check mark. Make a comment if you agree. Least partisan is good. Less partisanship is good. I mean, we used to have almost unanimous agreement upon the justice being the new justice on the Supreme Court. Over the past 20 to 30 years, it has been reduced to partisanship. That's actually bad for us as a country. That is where democracy is in danger. It is not the Supreme Court, it is Congress not being able to step out of their partisanship in actually making a real judgment about this person being qualified to be on the Supreme Court, regardless of the party, that president's party, who nominated him. Here's to our democracy. Here's to our freedoms, which rely on protections against tyranny. What's old is new. See you next time. Son of Liberty 2020, amliberty2020 at gmail.com, taverntalks.locals.com.